The thing about Betrayal is that it doesn't arrive with sirens. It slides in through the gap under the bedroom door while you're brushing your teeth, sits at the breakfast table spreading jam on toast, kisses you goodbye with coffee-flavored breath. Mine arrived on a Tuesday wearing my wife's perfume. I'm Calder Rowan, and for 11 years I believed in the arithmetic of marriage. You add trust, subtract suspicion, multiply patience. The equation balanced, until it didn't. The first crack appeared 3 months before everything shattered. Not a crack I could photograph or point to. Nothing admissible in any court except the one inside my skull. Just Alara coming home 20 minutes later than usual, her smile arriving before her explanation. Traffic was terrible, she said, dropping her purse on the kitchen counter with that particular kind of carelessness that suggested she'd practiced the gesture. You wouldn't believe how backed up the interstate was. I was stirring pasta sauce, playing the role I'd perfected over a decade. The dependable husband who asks no uncomfortable questions. Long day at the clinic? Endless. She poured herself wine without offering me any, which wasn't unusual. Alara measured her generosity in precise doses. Mrs. Hendricks came in again with her imaginary symptoms. I swear, some people just need attention. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been so perfectly aimed at my ribs. She worked as a dental hygienist at a practice downtown, spent her days in other people's mouths, came home smelling like mint and latex. I worked as a systems analyst for Gordian Logistics, spent my days in spreadsheets and data flows, came home smelling like recycled air and fluorescent lighting. We were profoundly ordinary, the kind of couple you wouldn't notice at a restaurant or remember meeting at a party, which is exactly how I liked it. Invisibility has advantages. Oh, I forgot to mention, Alara said, scrolling through her phone while I plated the pasta. Mason Ireton invited us to that gallery opening next week. You remember Mason, right? From the fundraiser? I remembered. Tall, expensive haircut, the kind of handshake that lasted 3 seconds too long, investment advisor or consultant or one of those jobs that sounds impressive but means nothing to anyone who actually works for a living. He'd monopolized Alara's attention that entire evening while I stood nearby holding our coats, a human coat rack with a pulse. The one who wouldn't stop talking about his Tesla, I said. He's just enthusiastic. She set her phone face down on the table. I think we should go. It would be good for us to be more social. There it was again, that slight emphasis on us that somehow managed to exclude me entirely. I'd become fluent in the language of her dismissals. Every marriage has its dialect. Sure, I said, because what else do you say when your wife stops looking at you while she talks? She smiled, picked up her fork, and the moment passed. But it left a residue, something sticky and wrong that I couldn't quite name. Over the next few weeks, I collected more of these moments. Alara checking her phone at breakfast and smiling at something she wouldn't share. Long showers after work. A new perfume that smelled like someone else's decision. The way she'd started saying my name only when she needed something, as if I'd become a service provider rather than a person. I'm not stupid. I knew the signs, I'd seen this movie before, read the book, heard the song. But knowing something intellectually and accepting it viscerally are different species of pain. So I did what any reasonable person does when reality becomes unbearable. I convinced myself I was paranoid. Then came the night she laughed at Mason's joke. We were at that gallery opening, surrounded by abstract paintings that looked like tax fraud, drinking wine that cost more than my car payment. Mason appeared beside us like he'd been waiting in the wings, all teeth and confidence, wearing a suit that probably required its own insurance policy. Alara, you look stunning, he said, ignoring me entirely. Not even a glance. I might as well have been gallery lighting. Mason, you're terrible, she said and laughed. Actually laughed. A sound I hadn't heard from her in months, bright and genuine and aimed at someone else's face. I stood there holding my wine glass, wondering when I'd become furniture. They talked about art and investments and some restaurant neither of them had been to yet, using the word we in ways that felt deliberately ambiguous. I contributed nothing because nothing was required of me. After 15 minutes, I excused myself to the restroom. Neither of them noticed I'd left. That night, lying in bed while Alara slept beside me with her back turned, I admitted what I'd been avoiding. My wife was somewhere else. Maybe she'd been gone for a while, and I was only just now noticing the empty space she'd left behind. The next morning, I found a receipt in the pocket of her jacket while I was doing laundry. Dinner at Marcello's, downtown, 2 entrees, bottle of wine, date stamped from last Thursday. The Thursday she'd said she was working late, helping Dr. Patterson with inventory. I put the receipt back exactly where I'd found it, finished the laundry, folded her clothes with the kind of precision you learn when you're trying not to scream. Then I went to work and pretended my hands weren't shaking on the keyboard. 2 weeks later, I saw them together. Pure accident. I'd left work early because a migraine was drilling holes through my skull, drove past Riverside Park on my way home, and there they were, Elira and Mason, sitting on a bench by the water, close enough that I couldn't pretend it was platonic. She touched his arm the way she used to touch mine years ago, when I still believed I made her happy. I didn't stop, didn't confront them, just drove home, took 3 aspirin, and lay down in the dark bedroom that suddenly felt like a set piece in someone else's life. That night, Elira came home cheerful. "How are you feeling? Still have that headache?" "Better," I lied. "Good. I was thinking we should plan a weekend trip soon. We never do anything spontaneous anymore." The audacity was almost impressive. She was rewriting our marriage into a story where she was the neglected wife and I was the boring husband who needed to try harder. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was the narrative she'd built around it, the one where I deserved this. "Sounds nice," I said, playing my part. She kissed my forehead, a gesture so patronizing it would have been funny if my chest hadn't felt like it was collapsing. "I'm glad you're being reasonable about things." About what things? I wanted to ask. But I didn't, because I was beginning to understand something important. Information is leverage, and leverage requires patience. She thought I was oblivious. Better to let her keep thinking that. The following week, I came home to find her on the phone, laughing again. That same bright sound, the one she saved for Mason. When she saw me, she switched tones instantly. "Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye." "Who was that?" I asked, casual as cancer. "Just Melissa from work. Girl talk." She set the phone down, screen side down again. Always face down now. "What do you want for dinner?" "I'm not hungry." "Calder, you have to eat something." "I said I'm not hungry." She sighed, the long-suffering sigh of a woman burdened by an unreasonable husband. "Fine. Starve then." I went to the bedroom, closed the door, and sat on the edge of the bed in the dark. 11 years. We'd been married 11 years. I'd been faithful 11 years. I'd been boring 11 years. And now I was reaping the harvest of my dependability. The really twisted part? I still loved her. Or loved the version of her I'd married, the one who didn't exist anymore. Maybe never existed. Maybe I'd just been in love with potential, with the story I'd told myself about who we could be together. 3 days later, everything changed. I was in the garage looking for the hedge trimmer and knocked over a box of Alara's old college papers. While picking them up, I found her journal, one I didn't know she kept. Old habit from her teenage years, she'd told me once. She didn't write in it anymore, except she did. The entries were sporadic but recent, dated, detailed, devastating. She described Mason in ways she'd never described me, wrote about their afternoons together, the things they talked about, the way he made her feel alive again. She called me comfortable, said our marriage had become a routine she needed to escape from, just for a while, just to remember what excitement felt like. Then came the line that broke something fundamental inside me. Sometimes I think Calder would be relieved if I left. At least then he wouldn't have to pretend to be interested in me anymore. I replaced the journal exactly as I'd found it, finished looking for the hedge trimmer I no longer needed, and walked back into the house. Elara was in the kitchen making a salad, humming something I didn't recognize. "Hey," I said, "we need to talk." She turned, still smiling. "About what?" "About Mason." The smile fractured. Not all at once, she was too controlled for that, but in small increments, like ice cracking under weight. "What about Mason?" "I know, Elara." Silence. The kind that has texture and weight. She set down the salad tongs very carefully, composing her face into something between concern and confusion. "Know what?" "Don't." My voice came out calmer than I expected. "Just don't." She tried denial first, because of course she did, looked me straight in the eye and said, "I don't know what you're talking about." But her hands were shaking, slight tremor she couldn't quite control, and I'd learned to read her body long before I learned to read her lies. When I didn't respond, didn't break, she switched tactics. "Okay, fine. Mason and I are friends. Is that what this is about? You're jealous of a friendship?" "Dinner at Marcello's isn't friendship." "How did you—" She stopped herself, recalculated. "So you've been spying on me, going through my things?" Classic deflection. Make me the villain for discovering her betrayal. "Answer the question, Elara." "There's nothing to answer. You're being paranoid. I saw you at the park." Another crack, wider this time. She leaned back against the counter, crossed her arms. "Okay, yes. We had coffee. We talk sometimes. That doesn't mean anything." "Coffee and dinner and long conversations and whatever else you're not telling me." "Calder? How long?" She closed her eyes. This is ridiculous. How long? When she opened them again, something had shifted. The performance dropped away, replaced by something colder, truer. 3 months, but nothing happened, nothing physical. We just talk. He listens to me. He makes me feel like I matter. And I don't? Ah, you never did. She said it so simply, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment to register the violence. You're a good man, Calder. Dependable, safe. But you're not interesting. You never were. I stood there absorbing the words, feeling them land in places I didn't know were vulnerable. So this is my fault. I didn't say that. You just did? She pushed off the counter, came toward me with her hands raised like she was approaching something wounded. Look, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way. I'm just trying to explain how I feel. Mason makes me feel exciting again, like I'm more than just someone's wife. You are someone's wife, mine. I know, and maybe that's the problem. The floor moved, not literally, just that sensation when the world shifts under your feet, and you realize everything you thought was solid was actually built on sand. I'd been so careful, so devoted, so reliably present, and none of it mattered. I was the dependable one, the boring one, the one she needed to escape from to feel alive. I want to fix this, she said, softer now. Mason was just a distraction. It doesn't mean anything. We can work through this. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I didn't recognize, or maybe someone I'd never actually known. No, I said, we can't. Calder, please, don't be dramatic. I'm filing for a separation. Her expression shifted again, this time to shock. Genuine, unfiltered shock. Like the possibility that I might leave had never occurred to her. I was supposed to stay. I was the dependable one. That was my role in her narrative. You can't be serious, she said. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Over nothing? Over a friendship? Is that what we're calling it? She reached for my arm, and I stepped back, a reflex I didn't plan. She froze. For the first time in months, maybe years, she actually saw me. Not the role I played, not the function I served, but me. And she didn't like what she saw. Calder, wait. But I was already walking away, heading for the bedroom to pack a bag. Behind me, I heard her voice rising, panic bleeding through the performance. This is insane! You're overreacting. It was just a game. I was just trying to make you jealous. I stopped at the bedroom door, turned back to look at her. She was standing in the kitchen doorway, hands clasped in front of her like she was praying. Her voice dropped to something approaching genuine emotion. I don't have a lover. It was all just a game. I only wanted to make you jealous. I said nothing, turned back to the bedroom, and started planning. The discovery of betrayal is rarely cinematic. There's no dramatic music, no slow-motion confrontation. You find evidence the way you find mold, slowly, in places you weren't looking, until suddenly it's everywhere, and you wonder how you missed it for so long. After our fight, I moved into Jonah Pike's spare room. Jonah was my only friend, the kind of person who asks no questions and offers total honesty in return. We'd met in college, maintained a friendship through careers and marriages and everything else that usually kills connection. He was divorced twice, currently single, profoundly cynical about relationships in ways that used to annoy me and now felt prophetic. She'll call, he said that first night, handing me a beer. They always call? Ah, he was right. Alara called 17 times the next day. I answered none of them. By day 3, the calls became texts. We need to talk? This is childish. You're throwing away 11 years over nothing. Each message a small monument to her refusal to accept consequences. I responded to exactly one. I'll be by Saturday to pick up my things. Saturday came with rain, appropriately pathetic. I drove to the house we'd bought together 5 years ago, the one with the mortgage we'd split evenly, the one where every room contained some memory of us being happy. Or at least, me being happy while she pretended. Alara answered the door looking like she hadn't slept. Good. Calder, she said, and her voice cracked. Please, can we just talk? I'm here for my things. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I walked past her into the house. It smelled different, though I couldn't identify how. Maybe it was me who smelled different. Maybe betrayal has a scent, and I'd finally learned to recognize it. She followed me to the bedroom. I ended it, with Mason. It's over. It was never even really anything to begin with, just conversations, just Alara. I opened the closet, started pulling clothes off hangers. I don't care. How can you not care? Because whether it was physical or emotional doesn't change the fundamental equation. You chose someone else. You chose him over me, over us, over everything we built. The rest is just details. She sat on the edge of the bed, our bed, and put her face in her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were red but dry. Alara never cried in front of people. Too much loss of control. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean we throw away a marriage. You threw it away. I'm just acknowledging what you already did. That's not fair. I stopped packing, turned to face her. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about fairness. I worked late so you could take that certification course. I covered your student loans for 3 years. I sat through 700 hours of your mother's stories about her garden. I was faithful, completely, boringly, dependably faithful, and you repaid that by finding someone more interesting. You're making me sound like a monster. I'm making you sound like what you are. She stood, came toward me with her hands out. Calder, please. I love you. I know I didn't show it well enough. I know I took you for granted, but I love you. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can... No. Why are you being so stubborn? Because I'm not interested in being your backup plan. That landed. I saw it hit, saw her absorb the truth of it. I wasn't the man she wanted. I was the man she had. There's a difference, and we both knew it. I finished packing in silence. 2 suitcases of clothes, 1 box of books, my laptop. Everything else could stay. Let her keep the furniture and the dishes and all the other props from a play that was never going to get good reviews. At the door, she tried one more time. At least tell me you'll think about it. Give me a chance to prove I can change. I'll think about it, I lied. But before I left, I did something she didn't notice. While she was in the bathroom composing herself, I opened her laptop, the one she always left in the living room, the one with the password I'd known for years because we'd trusted each other once. I uploaded a simple program, barely 3 lines of code, a keylogger that would send me every word she typed. Not legal, probably. Not ethical, definitely. But I'd stopped caring about playing fair the moment she started rewriting our history to justify her lies. If she was ending things with Mason like she claimed, I'd know. And if she wasn't, I'd know that too. Over the next week, I learned things I wish I could unlearn. She wasn't ending it. The messages between them continued daily, sometimes hourly. Apologetic at first. Calder found out, we need to be careful. Then progressively bolder as days passed and I didn't come back. They made plans for dinner, for drinks, for a weekend trip to the coast. She told him things about me she'd never said to my face, called me emotionally unavailable, said I'd stopped trying years ago, painted herself as the long-suffering wife finally breaking free. The worst part wasn't the lies, it was how genuinely she seemed to believe them. She'd rewritten our entire marriage into a story where I was the villain and she was the victim, and Mason was the hero who'd saved her from her boring life. Never mind that I'd loved her. Never mind that I'd tried. Never mind any of it. She needed a narrative that absolved her, and I was the sacrifice on that altar. I printed everything, saved screenshots, built a file that would hold up in any court, not because I planned to use it, but because having leverage meant having options. Then I contacted a lawyer. Her name was Rhea Calder. My sister, technically, though we hadn't spoken in 4 years. Some family rift I'd let Alara negotiate me out of, some argument about boundaries and respect that I'd been too conflict avoidant to navigate properly. Rhea was a family law attorney, sharp as broken glass, unsentimental in ways that used to bother me and now felt necessary. I called her office. She answered on the 3rd ring. This is Rhea Calder. It's me. Silence. Then, Calder? Yeah. You have some nerve calling after 4 years. I need a lawyer. Another silence, longer this time. For what? Ending my marriage. I heard her exhale. Come to my office tomorrow. 9 a.m. Don't be late. She hung up before I could thank her. The next morning, I sat across from my sister in her downtown office, surrounded by law degrees and certificates of achievement. She looked older than I remembered. Harder, maybe. Or maybe I'd just never noticed before. Tell me everything, she said, pen poised over legal pad. I told her, laid out the timeline, the evidence, the messages, everything. She took notes without comment, her face professionally neutral. When I finished, she set down her pen and looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You want a quick ending or a painful one? Which costs less? Quick, we file on grounds of incompatibility, split assets 50-50, she keeps the house, you keep your retirement accounts. 6 months, done. And painful? We file on grounds of infidelity with full documentation, forced disclosure of all assets, drag Mason into depositions, make it a matter of public record. Could take 2 years. Could cost you both everything. I thought about it. Thought about Alara's face when I'd left. the performance of remorse that barely hid her relief. Thought about Mason's messages, the casual cruelty of his certainty that he'd won. "Quick," I said, "but I want one thing." "What's that?" "The house goes to her, but I want to be the one who signs it over. I want her to know I'm giving it to her, not that she's taking it from me." Rhea smiled for the first time since I'd entered. "You've gotten mean." "I've gotten clear." "Good. Mean and clear will serve you better than nice and deluded." She drew up the paperwork that week. I reviewed everything, signed where indicated, and had her file it with the county clerk. Alara would receive notice within 5 business days. On day 6, my phone rang at 2 in the morning. I knew who it was before I answered. "Calder?" Her voice was wrecked, shredded by crying or screaming or both. "Calder, please pick up, please." I considered letting it ring, but something in me, some last remnant of who I used to be, answered. "What?" "You filed. You actually filed." "Yes." "Without even trying to work things out?" "We worked things out. You chose Mason. I'm acknowledging your choice." "That's not what happened. I told you it was over with him." "Alara." My voice came out flat, emotionless. "I have screenshots of every message you've sent him in the last 2 weeks. Don't lie to me when I have proof." Then quietly, "You've been spying on me? You've been cheating on me. We're even. How can you be so cold about this?" "Practice." She started crying then, real tears this time, not the performance version. "Please don't do this. Please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll cut off all contact with Mason. I'll go to therapy. I'll prove to you that I've changed." "You can't change into someone you never were." "What does that mean?" "It means I married someone I thought you were, and you married someone you thought I'd become. Neither of us were right." "Calder, sign the papers, Alara. Make this easy." "And if I don't? Then it gets ugly and expensive and public. Rhea showed me how to make this a circus if we need to. Every message between you and Mason becomes court record. Every lie you told becomes testimony. Is that what you want?" More crying. "I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you did what you did. And yet here we are." I hung up. 3 days later, she called again. This time her voice was different, harder, angrier. The grief had crystallized into rage. "You want to know what Mason said? He said you're pathetic. He said you never deserved me anyway." "Then you should be with him. Sign the papers." "I'm not signing anything until we talk face to face. There's nothing left to talk about. Meet me, tomorrow, at the house. Give me 2 hours to explain." "Explain what?" "Everything. Please." Against my better judgment, I agreed. The next afternoon, I drove to the house. The lawn needed mowing. The flowers Alara used to obsess over were wilting. Everything was beginning its slow slide into neglect, the way all endings are. She opened the door before I could knock. "Thank you for coming." I followed her inside. She'd set out coffee and cookies on the kitchen table, a gesture so absurdly domestic it would have been funny if it weren't so desperate. We sat across from each other like strangers negotiating a business transaction. "I need you to understand something," she started. "Mason was never supposed to be real. It was just supposed to be a wake-up call, for both of us." "A wake-up call?" "Yes, to show you that I needed more attention, more effort. We'd gotten so comfortable, so routine. I thought if you saw me with someone else, you'd remember what you had. You'd try harder." I stared at her. "So you cheated on me to make me love you better?" "I didn't cheat. We never—" "Emotional affairs are still affairs, Alara." She looked down at her hands. "I know that now. But at the time, it felt justified. Like I was taking back some power in a marriage where I'd become invisible." "You were never invisible to me?" "Yes, I was. You stopped seeing me years ago. You looked at me the way you look at furniture. Necessary, functional, but not important." Maybe she was right. Maybe I'd stopped seeing her. Or maybe I'd seen exactly who she was, and she couldn't forgive me for it. Either way, we'd ended up here. 2 people who'd failed each other in ways they couldn't forgive. "None of that matters now," I said. "Sign the papers." "I can't." "Why not?" She looked up, and in her eyes I saw something I'd never seen before, actual fear. "Because I'm pregnant." The world tilted. "What?" 2 months. I just found out." "Is it yours? I told you Mason and I never—" She stopped, reading my expression. "I can prove it. DNA test. Whatever you need. But Calder, please, don't leave me. Not now. Not like this." I stood, walked to the window, looked out at the yard. Our yard. The one we'd planned together, planted together, ruined together. Even if that's true, it doesn't change anything. It changes everything. We're going to be parents. No, you're going to be a parent. I'm going to be something else. A check every month, a custody schedule, an obligation. That's not what I want. It doesn't matter what you want anymore, Alara. You forfeited the right to want things from me the moment you started sharing yourself with Mason. She stood, came around the table. Then I'll do the one thing you'll understand. I'll tell you the truth. The complete, unfiltered truth. Go ahead. I never loved you the way you loved me. I'm not sure I ever did. You were safe and kind and everything my mother said I should want, so I convinced myself that was enough. That safety was the same as love. But it's not. And Mason made me realize that. He made me realize I'd been pretending for years. There it was. The thing I'd suspected but never wanted confirmed. She'd never loved me, not really. I'd been a choice made out of practicality, not passion, a decision she'd regretted the moment something more exciting came along. Then why are you fighting this? I asked. Because I'm scared. Because being with you is easy and being alone is hard. Because I'm pregnant and terrified and I need someone who won't leave. That's not love, Alara. That's convenience. Maybe that's all love is. I turned to face her. No, it's not. And I'm done pretending it is. I walked to the door. Behind me, she started crying again, but this time I didn't stop, didn't look back, just kept walking until I was in my car, driving away from the house and the marriage and the woman who'd never actually chosen me. She called 47 times that night. I blocked her number, but I didn't file the complete papers yet, because she'd given me something I didn't expect. Confirmation that I'd already done the one thing she feared most. I'd stopped caring. Here's what people don't tell you about being betrayed. Everyone has an opinion about how you should handle it. Forgive her. Fight for your marriage. Real men don't give up. Real men show strength. Real men do whatever narrative the speaker needs to maintain their own worldview. Jonah was different. He just handed me another beer and said, "What's your plan?" Finish the paperwork. Move on. That's not a plan. That's capitulation. What else is there? He looked at me over the rim of his glass. Depends. How angry are you? Not angry. Tired. Liar. He was right, of course. I was angry. Furiously, consumingly angry. But anger requires energy, and I'd spent 11 years managing my emotions around Alara's needs. The muscle memory of suppression was strong. Even if I am, I said, what difference does it make? Difference is whether you let her write the ending or you do. I thought about that. About Alara's narrative, the one where she was the neglected wife and I was the emotionally unavailable husband. About Mason, who'd get to keep believing he'd won. About everyone else who'd look at our dissolution and think I'd simply given up. What are you suggesting? Jonah leaned back. I'm suggesting you stop playing nice. She wants the house, make her beg for it. She wants the easy ending, make it complicated. You've got leverage, screenshots, proof of the affair, evidence she's been lying to everyone. Use it. That's petty? No, that's justice. Petty is slashing her tires. Strategic is making her regret ever underestimating you. Something in his words resonated. Not the anger. I'd been angry for weeks, and it hadn't helped. But the idea of being underestimated. That hit differently. Alara thought I was weak. Mason thought I was pathetic. Even Rhea probably thought I was too passive to properly protect myself. Everyone had decided who I was and what I'd do. Maybe it was time to surprise them. How? I asked. Jonah smiled. First, we figure out what she actually values. Then we make it disappear. Over the next 2 weeks, I learned things about my wife I'd somehow missed in 11 years. She valued reputation above almost everything else. Her social standing, her image at work, the way people perceived her, all of it mattered more than truth. She'd built an entire identity around being the put-together dental hygienist with the stable marriage and the nice house and the perfect life. That identity was a lie, but it was her lie, and she protected it fiercely. I also learned about Mason. He worked at Prescott Investment Group downtown, drove a Tesla Model S he couldn't actually afford, lived in a loft apartment that cost 60% of his salary. He was leveraged to the eyeballs, playing the part of successful consultant while drowning in debt. His entire life was performance art, and Alara had fallen for it because it matched her own performance. They were perfect for each other. Two people pretending to be more interesting than they actually were. Jonah suggested I hire a private investigator. Document everything. Where they go, what they do, build a case. For what? I'm not contesting the divorce? No, but you are establishing truth, and truth has uses. I hired the investigator. His name was Dale Pritchard, former cop turned freelance surveillance. the kind of guy who charged by the hour and produced results by the day. Within a week, he had photos of Mason and Alara at restaurants, parks, her apartment, his loft. Nothing explicitly incriminating. They were careful not to be physically affectionate in public, but the patterns were clear. They meet 3 times a week, Dale said, spreading photos across his office desk. Always midday, always public places, she's playing it safe. What about him? He's more reckless, talks about her openly with friends. Brags, actually. He says he is helping her escape from her broken marriage. Of course he did. Mason was the hero in his own story, the knight rescuing the princess from the boring kingdom. Never mind that the boring kingdom had fed and housed the princess for 11 years while the knight was still figuring out how credit cards worked. Anything else? Dale hesitated. She's telling people you were abusive. I looked up. What? Not physically, emotionally. Says you were controlling, manipulative, that she stayed out of fear. She's building a narrative. Rage, clean and clarifying, flooded through me. She's lying. I know, but she's convincing. She's got friends who believe her, co-workers who've started looking at your social media differently. She's poisoning the well. This was the moment. The exact moment when I could have taken the high road, signed the papers, walked away clean, let her have her lies and her new boyfriend and her poisoned narrative. Be the bigger person. Instead, I asked Dale, can you prove she's lying? With time and money? Yeah, I can prove a lot of things. Then prove everything. Over the next month, I became a ghost in my own life. Showed up at work, did my job, came home to Jonah's spare room. On the surface, I was the heartbroken husband slowly recovering. Underneath, I was building something else. A case file, a collection of evidence, a weapon I hadn't decided how to use yet. Rhea called me during week 3. Alara's lawyer contacted me. She's willing to settle quickly if you drop all claims to marital assets. Which means she keeps everything. Essentially, you'd walk away with your retirement account and whatever you can prove you brought into the marriage. She'd get the house, the car, the savings. No. Calder? I said no. Counter with 50-50 split on everything, including her retirement accounts. That's fair, but she'll fight it. Good. Let her fight. Rhea paused. You're different than you were a month ago. Yeah. I got tired of being nice to people who don't deserve it, she laughed, sharp and approving. Finally, took you long enough. I started showing up at places I knew Alara would be. Not stalking, nothing illegal or creepy, just occupying space she considered hers. The coffee shop near her work, the gym where she took yoga classes, the grocery store she'd made her store even though it was equidistant from both of us. Each time she saw me, I'd smile, wave, act like nothing was wrong. It unsettled her in ways screaming never could. She'd approach cautiously, ask how I was doing, try to gauge my emotional state. I'd give her nothing, just pleasant conversation and empty pleasantries. You seem good, she said once, suspicion evident in her voice. I am good. Moving on. With who? There it was, the real question. She couldn't handle the idea that I might be fine without her. Does it matter? I guess not. But her face said otherwise. I started dating someone, not seriously, just a woman I'd met through work. Lauren, who was recently divorced herself and looking for casual companionship. We went to dinner twice, a movie once. Nothing physical, barely even romantic. But I made sure to post photos on social media. Made sure Alara could see I was building a life that didn't include her. She texted me after the first photo. You're with someone already? I didn't respond. She texted again. That was fast. Still nothing. Third text. I guess I was right. You never really loved me. I blocked her. Again. Through Dale, I learned she was spiraling. Calling Mason more frequently, showing up at his apartment unannounced, acting increasingly paranoid that he was losing interest. Which he was. Dale's surveillance showed Mason meeting other women, hedging his bets, keeping his options open. He'd never intended to be anything more than a distraction, but Alara had invested too much to see it. Meanwhile, I was systematically dismantling the narrative she'd built. Every friend she'd told about my supposed emotional mistreatment, I contacted directly. Showed them screenshots of our text conversations, proof of my repeated attempts to fix things, evidence that her story was fiction. Some believed me, some didn't. Well, but doubt was enough. All I needed was doubt. At work, I learned through Dale that she'd told her boss I'd been threatening her. Not physically, she was too smart for easily disprovable lies, but vaguely, emotionally. Said she was worried about her safety. Her boss, a woman named Patricia Kearns, had been considering filing something with HR on Alara's behalf. I requested a meeting with Patricia. I brought Rhea with me as legal representation. I want to be clear about something, I said, sitting across from Patricia in her office. My wife and I are divorcing. It's not pleasant, but it's not violent. If she suggested otherwise, she's lying to cover her own behavior. Patricia shifted uncomfortably. I'm not at liberty to discuss. You don't have to discuss anything. I'm just making sure you have the full picture. I handed her a folder. Copies of all communications between us. Proof that I've never threatened her, never done anything that could be construed as harassment. Also proof that she's been conducting an affair with a client of Prescott Investment Group named Mason Ireton. Patricia's eyebrows rose. A client? He's been recommending your practice to friends. Probably as a favor to her. Conflict of interest? Maybe. Worth investigating? Definitely. I stood. I'm not asking you to take sides. I'm asking you to verify the truth before acting on accusations. Thanks for your time. We left before she could respond. That was risky, Rhea said in the parking lot. Only if she actually threatened me. And if she did? Then Patricia has proof she lied. Either way, doubt is planted. Rhea looked at me like I was a stranger. You're getting scary, Calder. I'm getting even. Back home, Jonah's home, technically, I sat down with my laptop and started writing. Not a letter, not an email, a document. Comprehensive, detailed, annotated with dates and screenshots, and every piece of evidence I'd collected. The truth laid out in clinical detail. Her affair, her lies, her systematic attempt to rewrite our history. Okay, and then I sent it to exactly one person, her mother. Alara's mother, Patricia Thorne, had never liked me. Thought I wasn't ambitious enough, not polished enough, not good enough for her daughter. She'd tolerated me because Alara insisted, but the coldness was always there, just under the surface. Now I gave her a reason to hate me properly, but I also gave her the truth, let her decide what to do with it. The response came 2 days later, not from Patricia, but from Alara. She showed up at Jonah's house at 10 p.m., pounding on the door hard enough to rattle the frame. I opened it to find her standing there, mascara running, hands shaking. How could you? She screamed. How could you send that to my mother? Everything in that document is true. You humiliated me. You humiliated yourself. I just made sure people knew. She tried to push past me. Jonah appeared behind me, blocking her. Not your house, Alara. Not your rules. She glared at him, then back at me. You've destroyed everything. My mother won't speak to me. My friends think I'm a liar. Patricia is reviewing my employment, all because you couldn't handle losing. I didn't lose. You gave me away. There's a difference. You're pathetic. Maybe, but I'm honest about it. She stood there breathing hard, eyes wild with anger and something else. Fear. She was finally scared. Not of me, I'd never physically threatened anyone, but of consequences. For the first time in her life, her actions had repercussions she couldn't charm or perform her way out of. Sign the papers, I said quietly. 50-50 split, clean ending, or this keeps going and gets worse. Worse how? I haven't sent anything to Mason's employer yet. Haven't shown them the evidence that he's been misusing client relationships for personal gain. Haven't filed anything with the ethics board, but I could. Keep pushing, and I will. You wouldn't. Try me. We stood there, two people who'd promised to love each other forever, now threatening mutually assured destruction. I need time, she said finally. You have until end of week. Then Rhea files everything, and I mean everything. She left without another word. 3 days later, she signed the papers. Victory felt hollow. Alara had signed the divorce papers, agreed to the 50-50 split, but the fundamental injustice remained. She'd betrayed me and somehow still positioned herself as the victim. Jonah noticed. You won. Why do you look like you lost? Because she's already rewritten the story. I'm the vindictive ex-husband. Mason's the supportive friend. They get to move forward. So move forward too. To what? The marriage dissolved within 90 days. Colorado had streamlined laws when both parties agreed. I saw them together once. Ty Place downtown, they walked past the window, Mason's arm around her shoulders. She was laughing, head tilted back. The same laugh she used to give me. They looked happy, unburdened. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I opened my laptop and started researching Mason Ireton properly. Deep background, financial records, property records, business filings, court documents. What I found was fascinating. Mason Ireton was a house of cards in expensive shoes, sued twice by former clients for misrepresenting portfolio performance. Both cases settled with NDAs. His Tesla? Leased. His loft? Barely affordable. He'd declared bankruptcy 6 years ago. emerged with a rebranded consulting business that looked legitimate if you didn't check carefully. He was a fraud. I printed everything. This was leverage. Real leverage. The kind that could destroy him professionally. But using it would make me the villain Alara already claimed I was. I thought about that, about how much time I'd spent being the good guy, playing by rules nobody else followed. And where had it gotten me? Maybe being the good guy was overrated. I called Rhea the next morning. I need legal advice. I explained what I'd found. If I report this to his employer, what happens? Investigation. Immediate suspension. If accurate, termination. Possibly charges. Would I be liable? Are these documents obtained legally? Yes, all public record. Then no. You're allowed to share public information. Whether you should is different. Why wouldn't I? She paused, because once you cross that line, you can't uncross it. You become the person who destroys lives. I thought about Alara's laugh, Mason's casual ownership. I'm leaning toward yes, I said. I started frequenting the same coffee shop Mason used every morning. Not to confront, just to be there, visible. A reminder. After a week, he noticed. Calder, he said one morning, approaching with his overpriced espresso. Funny running into you here. Small city. Right. He stood awkwardly. Look, I wanted to say, don't. Don't apologize for something you're not sorry for. Don't pretend you didn't know what you were doing. His jaw tightened. I'm trying to be civil. Civil is not sleeping with someone's wife. Alara told me your marriage was basically over. And you believed her because believing her meant you got what you wanted. You know what your problem is? You think you're the victim here. But Alara was unhappy for years. Is that the story she told you? It's the truth. No, Mason. It's the version that makes you the hero. The actual truth, documented in 11 years of shared accounts and joint decisions, is that she was fine until she wanted something more exciting, and you were convenient. He picked up his cup. Believe whatever helps you sleep at night? I sleep fine. You're the one who should be worried. People who build their lives on lies tend to have them collapse eventually. Something in my tone made him pause. Is that a threat? No, just an observation. That night, Alara called. What did you say to Mason? He's worried you're going to do something crazy. We had a conversation. You need to leave us alone. I am. But moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It just means relocating the pain somewhere more productive. You're talking like a crazy person. Or I'm finally talking like someone who understands how the game actually works. I hung up. The next day, I contacted Mason's employer under a fake name, said I was interested in investment consultation. They gave me a slot the following week. I also contacted 3 former clients. 2 declined. 1 agreed to meet. Gerald Hutchins, retired engineer, lost substantial money through Mason's aggressive portfolio management. The settlement prevented him from saying anything publicly, but not from sharing documents privately. He's a liar, Gerald said, sliding a folder across the table. Promised returns he couldn't deliver, blamed market volatility when really it was bad advice. I've always regretted letting him get away with it. What would you want to happen to him? I'd want other people to know what he really is. I took the folder. Thank you, Gerald. That folder, combined with what I'd found, was enough to bury Mason professionally. Jonah found me that night surrounded by documents. You planning to actually do anything with it? Would you? Probably. But I'm vindictive. You're usually not. Maybe I should be. Every time I see them together, it feels like injustice. The universe doesn't do math, Calder. People do, and people are terrible at it. I looked at the documents. Thought about Gerald, who'd lost money and dignity. Thought about other potential clients who might trust Mason. Thought about justice versus revenge. I'm going to think about it, I said finally. Just remember, once you destroy someone, you can't undestroy them. But I already knew. I wanted them to understand what I was capable of. Wanted them to regret dismissing me. Not because it would heal anything, but because fairness demanded it. The confrontation came on a Wednesday. I'd scheduled my appointment with Prescott Investment Group under the name David Sterling, showed up 15 minutes early, waited in their marble-floored lobby. Mason appeared at exactly 3 p.m., hand extended, smile practiced. Mr. Sterling, Mason Ireton. His expression changed when he recognized me. What? We have an appointment. Shall we talk in your office? He glanced around. Receptionist watching. Other consultants visible through glass walls. He couldn't cause a scene. This isn't appropriate. Neither was sleeping with my wife, yet here we both are. His jaw clenched. Fine, 5 minutes. His office was corner suite, all windows and expensive furniture. I sat without being invited. He remained standing. What do you want? I pulled out a folder. To show you something interesting. Public records are fascinating once you know where to look. I don't have time for... Lawsuit filed by Gerald Hutchins, settled out of court. Complaint filed by Catherine Myers, also settled. Both cases involving misrepresentation of portfolio performance, both sealed with NDAs. But the cases themselves? Public record. His face paled. Those were resolved. They were paid off. There's a difference. I opened the folder, spread documents across his desk. Your bankruptcy from 6 years ago. Your lease agreements showing you don't own anything you claim to. Tax returns showing income well below what you tell people. It's all public, all verifiable, all absolutely damning if the right people see it. That's blackmail. No. Blackmail would be demanding money in exchange for silence. I'm demanding nothing, just making sure you know what I know. He sank into his chair. What do you want? I want you to understand something. You thought I was pathetic, thought I was weak, thought you'd won because you got my wife and I got nothing. But what you actually did was underestimate someone who's very good at seeing patterns, and now I see all of yours. You can't prove I did anything wrong. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to ask questions. Send these documents to your employer with a polite inquiry. They'll investigate. And when they investigate, they'll find more. People like you always have more. Mason stood, came around the desk. You self-righteous piece of... Careful, we're in your office. Glass walls, witnesses. You lay one finger on me and your career ends today instead of next week. He stopped, fists clenched, breathing hard. This was the moment. The one where he either controlled himself or didn't. He controlled himself. Barely. Get out, he said. Gladly. But Mason, stay away from Alara. Because when your career implodes, and it will, she's going to distance herself so fast you'll get whiplash. Women like Alara don't stay with men who can't provide status. You're insane. No, just clear-eyed. You thought you were playing a game you'd already won. But you didn't win. You just convinced yourself the game was over before I'd finished my turn. I walked out. That night, I sent the complete file to Prescott's compliance department. Attached a cover letter expressing concern as a potential client. Signed it with my real name. Made it clear I wasn't hiding. Then I sent copies to Mason's 3 largest clients. And to the regulatory board. And to Alara. She called within an hour, screaming. What did you do? Shared public information with people who have a right to know. You destroyed him. They suspended him. He could lose everything. Then he should have built his career on something more solid than lies. This is because of me, because we're together. This is because of him, because he's a fraud. You're just collateral damage. I hate you. That's fine. But Alara, when this all falls apart, and it will, remember that I tried to tell you. Remember that you chose him anyway. She hung up. The investigation moved fast. Within 3 days, they'd terminated Mason. Within a week, 2 former clients had filed new complaints. Within 2 weeks, the regulatory board had opened a formal inquiry. Mason's life was collapsing, and I'd barely lifted a finger. Alara tried to call multiple times, left voicemails progressing from angry to pleading. You were right. About him. About all of it. Please, Calder, call me back. I deleted them without listening all the way through. Jonah asked if I felt better. Now that you've nuked him from orbit? Not really. Why not? Because it doesn't undo what happened. He's ruined, sure. But I'm still the guy whose wife cheated on him. That doesn't change. 2 weeks later, I saw him at the grocery store. Pure chance. He looked terrible, unshaven, rumpled. When he saw me, something in his expression cracked. This what you wanted? He said. To destroy my life? I didn't destroy anything. Just exposed what was already there. You're a vindictive... Finish that sentence and I'll make sure the criminal investigation moves faster. He set down the beer. There's no criminal investigation. Not yet, but there could be. Wire fraud, depending on how you structured client agreements. I haven't sent everything to the DA yet, but I could. His hands were shaking. Why are you doing this? Because you thought consequences were theoretical. Because you thought taking someone's wife had no cost. Alara left me, he said quietly. 2 days after I got suspended. Said she couldn't handle the drama. I said nothing. She's probably calling you right now, begging you to take her back, because that's what she does. I'm not taking her back? Then what was the point of any of this? The point is that you'll remember me, Every time you rebuild, every time you're tempted to take shortcuts, you'll remember that someone cared enough to make sure consequences mattered. That's not justice. That's revenge. Maybe they're the same thing. I paid for my coffee and left him standing there. Outside, Rhea was waiting. You've been busy. Everyone's heard. People know it was you. And I wanted to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. Calder, I know what you did. I know why. But this kind of thing, it changes you. I don't want to go back. That's what I'm afraid of. She stepped closer. When you first came to my office, you wanted a clean ending. Now you're systematically destroying anyone who hurt you. That's not moving on. That's warfare. Maybe that's what I needed. Or maybe you've convinced yourself it is because you're scared of actually healing. You've turned revenge into a full-time job. I'm handling it. Are you? Because you've become the thing Alara accused you of being. Cold, calculating, obsessive. She made me this way. No, she gave you an excuse to become this way. There's a difference. She hugged me, brief, awkward, genuine, and left. My phone buzzed. Alara again. This time I listened. Calder, it's me. You were right, about Mason, about everything. I made terrible choices and I hurt you and I'm sorry. I heard what you did to him. Part of me thinks he deserved it. Part of me is scared of you. A pause. I'm alone now. Completely alone. And I keep thinking about how I had something real with you and I threw it away because I was bored. I got exciting. Turns out exciting isn't better. It's just different. The message ended. I sat there thinking about love and revenge and whether destroying Mason had actually fixed anything. But then I thought about how Alara had looked at Mason, the laugh she'd given him, the casual dismissal of 11 years together, and I thought, I'm not done yet. The knock came at 2 a.m. I was awake, going through documents, when knuckles hit wood. Jonah appeared, bleary and suspicious. Who comes to someone's house at 2 a.m.? I knew before he opened the door. Alara stood on the porch, makeup ruined, shaking. I didn't know where else to go. Home, Jonah said. You go home? Please, I just need to talk to Calder. I should have said no. Instead, I walked to the door. It's fine. Give us 5 minutes. Jonah retreated. Alara and I stood on opposite sides of the threshold. She looked wrecked, fundamentally undone in ways makeup couldn't hide. What do you want? I asked. To explain. We're past explanations. Please, 5 minutes. I stepped outside. We sat on Jonah's front steps. I know you hate me, she started. I don't hate you. I hate what you did. Is there a difference? Sometimes. She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them. I came to tell you the truth, the real truth. I never meant for it to go as far as it did. With Mason. At first it really was just friendship. But then it became more, and I told myself that was okay because you and I had stopped being close. I tried. I know. And I dismissed every attempt because accepting your effort would have meant admitting I was the problem, that I'd become someone who needed constant validation because being content felt like failure. She wasn't wrong. I'd seen the pattern years ago. I convinced myself you didn't care, she continued, that our marriage was already over, because believing that made it okay for me to find something else. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of growing old in a quiet marriage. So you blew it up? Yeah. She turned to look at me. And now I'm alone and broke, and everyone hates me, and Mason's destroyed, and it's all my fault. And the worst part? I can't even blame you. You did exactly what I would have done. Silence stretched between us. Why did you come here? I asked. Because I need to tell you something I should have told you months ago. She took a breath. I'm not pregnant. The words hung there. What? The pregnancy. I lied. There was never a baby. I stood, stepped away. You lied about being pregnant? I panicked. You were leaving, everything was falling apart, and I thought if I told you I was pregnant, you'd stay. So you invented a child to manipulate me? Yes. I started laughing. Not because anything was funny, but because the audacity was so perfect. You faked a pregnancy. I was going to fake a loss a few weeks later, something tragic that would bring us back together. That's sociopathic. I know. She stood. I know it was wrong, but I was desperate. I was losing everything. You thought lying more would somehow fix the lies you'd already told? I wasn't thinking. I was reacting. Like you've been reacting for 11 years. She flinched. You're right. I know I'm right. So what now? I looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw someone profoundly broken, trapped in patterns she didn't know how to escape, Someone who'd mistaken excitement for love and manipulation for strategy. Someone who was never going to change. Now you leave. You go home, you figure out your life, and you stop expecting me to fix it. I'm not asking you to fix it. Yes, you are. That's why you're here, because you've burned every other bridge and I'm the only person who might still care. But I don't, not anymore. She started crying. Real tears this time. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I need you to know I'm sorry. I believe you, but it doesn't matter. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. So that's it? We're just done? We've been done for months. You're only just realizing it. She nodded slowly. What you did to Mason, that was because of me, wasn't it? Partially. Mostly it was because he deserved it. I destroyed both of you. No, you destroyed us. Mason destroyed himself. I'm just the person who made sure everyone knew about it. She turned to leave, stopped. For what it's worth, I think you became someone scary, but maybe that's who you always were and I just didn't notice. Maybe. She walked to her car, got in, drove away. I watched taillights disappear, feeling nothing. Jonah appeared beside me. You okay? She lied about being pregnant. Of course she did. Women like Alara always have one more card to play. I've become someone I don't recognize, I said. You like who you've become? I thought about Mason's ruined career, Alara's isolation, the precision of my revenge. I don't know, I said finally. Then you're still human. But the next day I learned something that changed everything. Rhea called, voice tight. We need to talk, now. I met her at her office. She was pacing. I got a call from Alara's lawyer. She's planning to file a restraining order against you. On what grounds? Harassment, stalking, threats. She's claiming you've been intimidating her. That's insane. I know, but she has a narrative, phone records, witnesses, and the thing with Mason, she's framing it as you being obsessed with her. She came to my house last night. Doesn't matter if her story gets filed first. Why now? Because she's desperate. She needs to flip the script. If she can make you the aggressor, suddenly she's the victim again. But I was already thinking ahead. Because there was something Rhea didn't know. That night, I went back through every bank statement, every credit card bill, every financial document from our marriage, looking for patterns, and I found them. For the past 2 years, Alara had been systematically moving money, small amounts, into an account I didn't know about. The account opened 3 years ago, deposits increased 18 months ago, around when she'd met Mason. She'd been planning to leave long before I'd discovered the affair. The betrayal wasn't spontaneous, it was premeditated. I printed everything, built a timeline showing exactly when she'd stopped being committed to our marriage. Then I called Alara. You're not supposed to be calling me. We need to meet, one last time. I have something to show you. I'm filing a restraining order. And I'll fight it. But if we meet, if you listen, I'll make the divorce settlement include something you want. What? Your freedom. Clean break, no contest. But you have to hear me out first. She agreed to meet at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, spread documents across the table. When she came in, I gestured to the chair. What's this about? She asked. I pushed the timeline across. This is about honesty. She looked at the documents. You went through my accounts? Our accounts. Joint access. Though I'm interested in this account I didn't know about. That's my personal money. I know, but the timing is interesting. You opened it 3 years ago. Started serious deposits 18 months ago. Right around when you met Mason. Her jaw tightened. So you've been planning to leave for years. This wasn't spontaneous. This was an exit strategy. I was scared. I wanted options if things went wrong. Which means you knew things were going wrong. Which means every time you said we were fine, you were lying. Yes, she said it simply. I was lying. About a lot of things. I pulled out another document. Like this. Dinner reservations at Marcello's. 6 months before I found that first receipt. You'd been seeing him much longer than you admitted. Why does it matter now? Because you're trying to paint me as the obsessive one, when really you're the one who's been planning and scheming for years. She leaned back. What do you want? I want you to drop the restraining order. I want you to admit you've been lying, and I want you to understand something. You didn't break me, Alara. You revealed me, and the person I am now, that's who I always was. You just never bothered to notice. She stood. I'm not admitting anything. Then I'll submit all of this in court. Show that you're a liar who premeditated leaving, who built escape plans while pretending to work on our marriage. Your narrative falls apart. She stared at me. You really have changed. No, I really haven't. I've just stopped pretending to be someone you'd find less threatening." She left without another word. 2 days later, Rhea called. The restraining order request was withdrawn. Good. What did you do? Showed her the truth, that I'm not the villain. I'm just the person who stopped playing the victim. The final confrontation came without warning. Not planned, not scheduled, just inevitable. The way all endings are when you've burned every bridge between beginning and middle. I was leaving Jonah's house, heading to look at an apartment I'd found downtown, when I saw her car parked at the curb. Alara was sitting in the driver's seat, staring straight ahead, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I walked to her window. She lowered it. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Waiting for you. We need to talk." "We've done enough talking. Not about this. Not about the real thing." She gestured to the passenger seat. "Please, 5 minutes." I should have walked away. Should have maintained the distance I'd carefully built. But there was something in her voice. Not manipulation this time, but genuine exhaustion that made me pause. I got in. We sat in silence for a moment. Then she said, "I've been thinking about what you said, about how I revealed you, not broke you, about how you were always this person and I just didn't notice. And I think you're right. I think I married someone I didn't actually know. I saw the surface, kind, reliable, safe, and I thought that was all there was. But underneath, you've always been someone who calculates, who watches, who waits." Is that supposed to be an insult? No, it's supposed to be an apology, because I should have looked deeper, should have understood that the person who seems boring is usually just someone who's chosen not to be interesting yet. And I mistook your restraint for weakness. She turned to face me. "What you did to Mason, that wasn't random. That wasn't revenge in the moment. You planned it, researched, documented, built a case. You were patient and precise and absolutely ruthless, and I never saw it coming because I'd convinced myself you weren't capable of that. What's your point?" "My point is that I underestimated you, completely, and now I'm paying for it." She laughed, bitter. "Mason's career is done. My reputation is wrecked. My mother won't return my calls. I lost my job at the clinic because Patricia decided I was too much of a liability. I have nothing left, and all of it, every single bit, is because I thought you were someone you weren't. You thought I was weak. Yes. You thought I'd just accept it and move on. Yes. You thought consequences didn't apply to you. Yes, I nodded. Then you learned. I learned." She wiped her eyes. "But here's the thing I can't figure out. What you did to Mason, exposing him, destroying him, that was justified. He lied about his qualifications, misrepresented his abilities. People deserve to know. But what you're doing to me feels different. It feels like you're not interested in justice. You're interested in watching me suffer. Maybe both. Which one matters more?" Good question. One I'd been avoiding answering honestly. "I wanted you to understand what it felt like, to be dismissed, to be treated like you don't matter, to watch someone you love choose someone else and act like it's your fault for not being interesting enough. So this is revenge. This is education." She shook her head. You're lying to yourself. You destroyed Mason because you could. You isolated me because it felt good. You've turned pain into power and convinced yourself that makes it righteous. And what if it does? Then you're everything I accused you of being. Cold, calculating, obsessive. The difference is, now you're admitting it." We sat there, two people who'd promised forever, now picking apart the corpse of what we'd built. She was right. I had become something different. The question was whether that transformation was evolution or corruption. "I came here to tell you something," she said finally. "Something I should have said months ago when this all started." "Go ahead." "I never meant to hurt you, not consciously. I told myself I was just seeking happiness, that I deserved more excitement, that our marriage had run its course, but the truth is simpler and uglier. I was selfish. I wanted both. Wanted you as stability and Mason as excitement. Wanted to keep you as backup while I explored something new. And when you forced me to choose, I chose wrong." She paused. "Mason left me, by the way, and 2 weeks after you destroyed his career, said I was too much drama, too much baggage. He found someone else. Younger, less complicated. I was discarded exactly the way I discarded you. Poetic? Deserved." She looked at me. "But you didn't just want me to feel what you felt. You wanted me destroyed. Socially, financially, emotionally. You wanted me to have nothing left, and you succeeded. So now what? Is this enough? Is your revenge complete?" I thought about that. Thought about all the sleepless nights planning next moves, all the hours spent documenting evidence and building cases, all the energy poured into making sure they suffered appropriately for their choices. Was it enough? No, I said quietly. No? Because none of this fixed what's actually broken. Mason's career is ruined, sure. Your reputation is wrecked. But I'm still the guy whose wife cheated on him. That doesn't change. I didn't win. I just made sure you lost too. So what was the point? The point was refusing to be the only person who paid the price. The point was making sure you understood that actions have consequences. And if I already understood, if I was already suffering, then you should have suffered louder. She nodded slowly. You really have become the villain. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just the person who stopped pretending villain and victim are different categories. Maybe we're all both, depending on who's telling the story. That's a convenient excuse. It's not an excuse. It's an observation. She reached for the door handle, stopped. One more thing, that account you found. The one I'd been putting money into. I opened it because I was scared. Not of you, of myself. I knew I was capable of leaving, of blowing everything up, and I wanted to make sure I had options when I did. Because I've always known I'm destructive. I've always known I sabotage good things. I just thought maybe with you, I'd finally learned not to. But you didn't. No, I didn't. She got out of the car, then leaned back through the window. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. I hope revenge fills whatever's empty inside you, but I don't think it will. I think you'll keep destroying people and calling it justice until one day you realize you're alone and angry, and the person you've hurt most is yourself. Maybe. Not maybe. Definitely. Because that's what happens when you turn pain into power. It runs out eventually, and then all you have left is the destruction you caused. She walked away. I sat in her car, our car, technically, since I'd co-signed the loan, and thought about her words, about whether she was right, about whether I'd actually won anything or just made sure we all lost together. My phone buzzed. Text from Ria. Found you an apartment. 1 bedroom, downtown, available immediately. Interested? I typed back. Yes. Because maybe moving forward didn't mean winning. Maybe it just meant stopping. Stopping the revenge cycle, stopping the pain management, stopping the elaborate plans to make sure everyone hurt as much as I did. Or maybe it meant something else entirely. That night, I met with Jonah at a bar downtown. He ordered beer, I ordered whiskey, and we sat in silence for a while. Alara came by, I finally said. What did she want? To tell me I've become a monster. You did. Thanks for the honesty. Someone has to be honest. Everyone else is too busy being polite. He took a drink. But here's the thing. Monsters aren't always wrong. Sometimes they're just people who stopped pretending the world is fair. That's a terrible philosophy. Yeah, but it's accurate. We drank in silence some more. Around us, the bar filled with people who had normal problems. Job stress, relationship drama, traffic complaints. None of them were sitting there wondering if they'd crossed a line from justice into cruelty. I destroyed him, I said. Completely. His career, his reputation, everything. And I don't feel bad about it. Should you? I don't know. Normal people probably would. Normal people don't get betrayed by their wives and played by investment consultants. You're in exceptional circumstances. You responded exceptionally. Maybe that's all it is. Or maybe I enjoyed it. Enjoyed watching him fall apart. Enjoyed having power over someone who thought I was powerless. Did you? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Yeah, I did. Then you're human. Humans are terrible. Congratulations. We finished our drinks. Ordered more. Somewhere between the third and fourth round, Jonah asked the question I'd been avoiding. What now? Now I move into the apartment Ria found. Start over. Figure out who I am when I'm not defined by marriage or revenge. You think that's possible? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And Alara? What about her? You done with her? I'm done. You sure? Because I've seen this pattern before. Ex-wives have a way of pulling you back in, especially ones who know all your buttons. She doesn't have any power over me anymore. That's what every divorced guy says, right before they end up having one last conversation that turns into one last chance that turns into them getting hurt again. I'm not falling for that. Good, because you've spent 6 months proving you're not someone to mess with. Be ashamed to undermine that by being a sucker. We finished our drinks, stumbled back to his house. I packed my remaining things, which wasn't much, and the next day moved into my new apartment. 1 bedroom, 9th floor, city view, empty walls and bare floors, and absolutely no memories of who I used to be. I unpacked books first, then clothes, set up my computer on the kitchen counter because I didn't have a desk yet, ordered furniture that would arrive in 3 days, Made coffee in a machine that was mine, not ours. It felt like starting over. Or ending. Hard to tell which. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Patricia Kearns. We need to talk about Alara's employment situation. Call me. I deleted it. Whatever consequences Alara was facing at work weren't my problem anymore. Another buzz. This time, Alara. I know you don't want to hear from me, but Mom's in the hospital. She had a stroke. In case you want to know. I stared at the message. Patricia had been cold to me our entire marriage, but she'd been Alara's mother, and despite everything, I wasn't completely heartless. I called. Alara answered immediately. You called? How is she? Stable. They think she'll recover. But Calder. Her voice broke. I'm alone here. I have nobody. My sister won't return calls. My dad's on a fishing trip in Alaska. I'm sitting in a hospital waiting room by myself, and I'm terrified. I'm sorry. I truly am, but I can't be your support anymore. I'm not asking you to be. I'm just telling you because you were part of this family for 11 years, and maybe you care enough to know. I do care, but I can't come there. I can't be what you need right now. I'm not asking you to come. I'm asking you to just acknowledge that this is hard, that I'm going through something difficult, that despite everything, I'm still human. You're human. This is hard. I hope your mom recovers. Silence. Thank you, she said quietly. I hung up, sat on the bare floor of my empty apartment, feeling something close to regret. Not for what I'd done, I'd stopped regretting necessary actions, but for how far I'd gone to prove a point. Mason destroyed, Alara isolated, their lives dismantled because I couldn't accept being the underdog. Was it worth it? My phone buzzed again, this time Rhea. Just so you know, word is spreading about what you did to Mason. People are calling you cold, calculating, someone to avoid crossing. How do you feel about that reputation? I texted back. Honestly, fine. Let them think I'm dangerous. Better than being thought weak. She didn't respond immediately. When she did, it was just 2 words. I'm worried. But I wasn't worried. I was done being worried. Done being careful. Done managing other people's perceptions of who I should be. I'd spent 11 years being the dependable one. The boring one. The safe choice who got discarded the moment something more interesting came along. Now I was the dangerous one. The calculating one. The person who proved consequences were real. And I was okay with that. The final text came that night. Mason, you win. I'm leaving Colorado. Starting over somewhere else. Hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long time. Thought about responding. Thought about one last confrontation. Thought about pushing further just to see how far I could go. Instead, I typed, I'm not happy, but I'm even. That's enough. Deleted his number, turned off my phone, and sat in my empty apartment, finally alone, finally free of the marriage and the betrayal and the need to make everyone understand what they'd done. Outside, the city moved through its evening routine, people coming home from work, restaurants filling up, life continuing regardless of personal drama. I'd won, technically, destroyed my enemies, protected my dignity, proved I wasn't someone to underestimate. But sitting there in the dark, I realized something important. Victory feels exactly like being alone. And maybe that's all revenge ever is, trading one kind of pain for another. I thought about Alara sitting in that hospital waiting room, isolated from everyone she'd alienated. Thought about Mason packing up his life, moving somewhere nobody knew his story. Thought about me in an empty apartment, having won every battle while losing the war for anything resembling peace. We'd all destroyed each other. And for what? To prove we could, to prove consequences existed, to prove that underestimating people had costs. I stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city lights stretching toward darkness. Somewhere out there, people were falling in love, getting married, making promises they probably wouldn't keep, building lives that would eventually crumble because humans are terrible at sustaining happiness. And I thought, at least I'm honest about it now. At least I stopped pretending the world rewarded being good. At least I finally became the person I'd always been underneath. Cold, calculating, capable of destruction when necessary. Not the victim, not the underdog. Just someone who played the game better than anyone expected. My phone buzzed one last time. Alara. Mom's going to